Good morning from the MDB's pavilion at COP28 Dubai. My name is Gianpiero Nacci. I'm a director in the Climate Strategy and Delivery Department of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. We're here today to present the work conducted and developed over the last 18 months under the leadership of the Ministry of Industry of Turkey, and which support the decarbonisation of 4 important industrial sectors in the country: steel, cement, aluminum, and fertilizers. Before introducing our speakers and going through the details of this work, I would like to frame this activity in the broader context of climate ambition of Turkey. You may recall last year at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Turkey announced its net zero target by 2053. This work, these low carbon pathways for these important industrial sectors are an integral part of the implementation of this target. I like also to frame this under a broader vision and ambition. This work, it's about supporting industrial sectors in the country, taking a full advantage of the opportunities offered by the clean economy. At the same time, showing global leadership in this important area of climate action. At EBRD, we fully support this vision. We are very pleased and honored to work with the Turkish institutions on this important area of work, and actually we are keen to step up the cooperation and work on further activities. So without further hesitation, let me introduce the first speaker. Is connected online, Dr. Akif Kocha from PwC Consulting, who have been leading the analysis and will present the key findings. Akif, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gianpiero. Can you share my screen? Can you allow me to share my screen, please?
Yes, we are in the process of doing it.
Okay. Let me start with the
one second, Akif. Almost there. Maybe while we wait, Akif, why don't you briefly explain the role of PwC in this activity, and then we'll move to the slides.
Sure. So I'm a partner with PwC Turkiye.
Okay, sorry, we can see them now, so you can move to the slides.
Okay. So I'm a partner with PwC Turkiye, leading our public sector advisory practice. As PwC Turkiye, we supported the Ministry of Industry and Technology of Turkey in developing low carbon pathways for the 3 hard-to-abate industries, and I will briefly present our findings from these projects.
Next slide.
So, as you all know, Turkey is actively engaged in emission reduction and carries out projects to identify emission reduction potential. Decarbonization of the hard-to-abate sectors will play a critical role in achieving the net zero target set by the country. Next slide, please. These projects, owned by Ministry of Industry and Technology and funded by EBRD, we have intensively collaborated with the ministries, related government bodies, sectoral associations, and companies in developing our project and finding our results. Next slide, please. So we have conducted extensive analysis and modeling of respective sectors to develop low carbon pathway scenarios. First of all, we conducted a deep assessment of the current state of the Turkish industries, and then we conducted extensive benchmarking of the best case countries and companies and developed a gap analysis. In the second stage, we forecasted supply and demand projections for the industries in a 30-year horizon. And in the third stage, we developed emission optimization models to unreveal the potential decarbonization pathways, transmission pathways for the respective scenarios. These models consider all the cost, technology, and emission parameters and produce the low carbon technological transition pathways for the respective industries. As a fourth and last stage, we developed our policy framework in the form of a policy action plan. We identified the related responsible institutions and the time frame for each policy action. Next slide, please. So this slide basically shows the main findings of our study. After running our optimization models, we have found that we can indeed reduce emissions by 99% in the steel sector, by 75% in the aluminum sector, and by 93% in the cement sector by 2053. Deployment of hydrogen and carbon capture and utilization technologies will be critical in steel and cement industries. For the aluminum industry, especially the emissions due to imported ingots will play a critical role, will be a high concern. Next slide, please. So for the steel industry, especially the deployment of the hydrogen-based DRI technology, both in BOF and EAF road, will be important to decarbonize the industry. And at a later stage, we will see utilization of the carbon capture and utilization technology. Next slide, please. For the primary aluminum industry, we are expecting transition of the technology for boiler, calciner, and anode process. So for the boiler, we are expecting a transition from coal to gas and then CST boiler. For the calciner, we are expecting hydrogen deployment, and for the anode, we are expecting a move to inert anode technology. Next slide, please. For the primary aluminum processing industry, we are expecting a shift in the furnace technology, especially with the utilization of the electrical reverberator furnaces and the highly advanced furnaces with the carbon capture and storage utilization. But still, in the aluminum industry, the embedded emissions due to imported ingots will be a high concern. Next slide, please. So for the cement industry, we considered 7 decarbonization levers. The first 2 levers, thermal efficiency and the alternative fuels to reduce emissions from combustion. Then we considered the reduction of the clinker cement ratio to reduce process emissions. We also considered electricity decarbonization measures. Finally, we considered material efficiency, recarbonation, and carbon capture to reduce the total emissions from the industry. But I should say that the main emission reduction lever will be carbon capture and storage for the cement industry. About more than 50% of the emissions will be reduced, will be saved by the CCS technology. Next slide, please. So these technological transitions will require huge investment costs. We estimated that for the steel industry, the total cost in a 30-year horizon will exceed $30 billion. It will be around $5 billion for the aluminum and close to $30 billion for the cement industry. And the most part of the cost will come at a later stage due to the utilization deployment of the radical technologies such as carbon capture and hydrogen. With this, we conclude the quantitative findings of the study. Next slide, we are showing our policy framework. So we developed a policy framework under 2 axes, mainly input and technology and policy and markets. On each policy axis, we identified policy areas and related policies. For the steel industry, we identified 61 policy recommendations, for aluminum 45, and for cement 40 policy recommendations, together with related phases, action areas, with respective and responsible stakeholders. So what is next for the decarbonization of these industries? In the next slide, we present the main learnings, findings, and conclusions from the study. Next slide, please. First of all, finalization of the national legislative framework will be important for the players to understand the rules of the game and to develop their own feasibilities. And second, effective coordination of the climate efforts at the country level will be important, will be critical going forward. Third, the design of the green taxonomy to guide industry players as well as financial institutions will be crucial. And also development of effective green finance mechanisms and products will support the transition in the industry. In addition, improvement of the institutional capacities, especially in SMEs, will be important, since SMEs will lack resources to make this transition happen. And for all companies, all enterprises, assessment of potential climate risks and potential impacts of this transition will be important. And finally, on the workforce dimension, supporting the transition in the workforce to uphold this technological transformation will be needed, will be required. So with this, we complete our presentation. We hope that these project findings will shed a light on the future transition of the industries and will support Turkish government and the related industry players to decarbonize and to achieve their goals in the near future. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you very much, Akif. This is very comprehensive explanation and presentation of the work. Please stay with us until the end of this session. I'd like to highlight 4 elements that come from this work. First of all, I'd like to highlight that this has been a consultative and collaborative endeavor. This entailed, of course, strong leadership from the ministry, but at the same time, engagement with the sector players, with the sector associations, the technology providers, and of course also the academic world. The second element I would like to highlight is that I think this analysis proves that deep decarbonization of these sectors is possible. So we've seen that the ambition is to really get very, very close to net zero by the 2053 deadline. And the third element, though, is that substantial investments are needed, and these investments are necessary to bring this sector, fully integrated in the green value chain, the global green value chains. We're talking also about investment that go beyond the specific industrial installations and entail infrastructure development, support infrastructure development. And perhaps the fourth point, and this is a good introduction to Dr. Çetin, is also the need to have a strong policy framework and regulatory framework that really enable the transformation and transition. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Dr. Çetin Ali Dönmez, Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Industry and Technology of Turkiye, who will give us a bit of a perspective of the government when it comes to industrial decarbonization and the relevance of this work for strengthening the economy of Turkiye. Dr. Çetin, please.
Distinguished participants, I think the microphone is working, right?
No. I think it's good.
I warmly welcome you and would like to thank EBRD for inviting me to this event. So we worked very hard with EBRD, and as you see in the presentation, there is quite a lot of hard work in our ministry with EBRD and Pricewaterhouse. They really helped us a lot to understand the dynamics and the need for future investments. So it also helps this work with the support of EBRD and Pricewaterhouse. It also helped our staff to understand more about green industry and green transformation. And as you also mentioned, the core point of the presentation is actually that the need for investment is huge, and also this financing of this investments is not so easy, especially long-term and affordable financing is needed there. So the function of EBRD as an IFI and also your participation to coordinate the other IFIs is very valuable for us. Therefore, we really give special importance to our work with EBRD and our work with World Bank. Today, there is also some negotiations starting in Ankara with World Bank. We will have a launch event on the 8th of this month with World Bank, and we will launch the green industry support. Actually, the point here is through EBRD, by banks, through banks, we want to finance Turkish industry, especially aluminum, steel, cement, and fertilizer at the head, but later on the other ones, the other industries. So we plan to finance the companies through EBRD support, through financial intermediaries, banks. There is also another need which we saw with the World Bank. Actually, we may also work with EBRD in this sense. there is also some need for direct support from government. Okay, not through the intermediaries, but from the government. Direct support is very valuable. Therefore, I think I hope to negotiate more about this issue with IFIs. So, as you know, Turkey joined the EBRD quite a few, I mean, in 1991. We are the founding members of the EBRD. EBRD has been investing in Turkey and more than 400 projects, as according to the note that they gave to me, more than 400 projects actually has been done with EBRD, and it's around 20 billion investment, which is huge. So the investment portfolio of EBRD in Turkey it was the largest in 2022 among the 38 countries in the bank for the bank. So, but what we do in Turkey, we really utilize quite well the funding provided by EBRD. We give special importance to what we receive from IFIs. We really spend it on the right places for the right companies. So that money is very important for Turkey. So you should be very sure that the money is spent for the right place. So no worries in this sense. We also actually we are one of the donors to EBRD, and we granted more than 30 million euro in total to EBRD. Therefore, it's a very good cooperation with EBRD. It's two ways. So we are very happy with that cooperation. Actually, what we do expect from EBRD also to initiate the funding from the other IFIs, especially European Investment Bank, for example. They are now not so eager to finance the projects in Turkey, but with the coordination of EBRD and World Bank, maybe to some extent, really we should get EIB to the stage. So that the long-term funding and affordable funding will be available for Turkish industry. So low carbon pathway projects, as Pricewaterhouse presentation, as you saw on the presentation, it's very important because it shows the milestones for the industry, at which date or time period we will do what, etc. And there is quite a lot of interest also from the Turkish community, especially the chambers, Chamber of Commerce, Chamber of Industries. There is quite a lot of interest, and what they do in Turkey, and I actually support their efforts, is that they also try to now build teams within their organization. So this is very important. In our ministry, Ministry of Industry and Technology, what we did up to now and what we have been doing is that we form teams, and those teams are also they know how to work with IFIs. So for the chambers also, Chamber of Industries, Chamber of Trades, now they have teams, pool of talent. So they work especially on this climate change issue. So I do expect quite a lot of progress in the coming years for Turkey. We are very sincere in our efforts for decarbonization because we talked a lot within the government, especially among the ministers. I witnessed some of the discussions among the ministers at ministerial level. Not I'm the deputy. I'm talking about the ministerial level. So ministers, most of them, they are really very sincere in their efforts to decarbonize. It's not something that we just find a way to sell more. No, it's not that way. So we are very aware that the climate is a big problem for the world. Climate and environmental pollution is a big problem for Turkey. So we need, even if we don't have any carbon taxes or emission charges, cross-border charges, etc., we are still very eager to decarbonize because for all of us, for our kids, for our grandsons, so we need a clean environment. So that's very important. So we are very sincere in that sense. So those sectors that we work with EBRD, we hope that the other sectors will be in the roadmap. Recently, we worked green and digital transformation, dear participants, and green and digital transformation we will support. We will have a special mechanism to support green transformation and digital transformation in Turkey. So this is a bit different from the standard investment incentive mechanism. This is a special support call for Turkish industrial companies for green and digital transformation. We will do everything to support them by providing tax shields, by providing the social security premium support, by providing interest rate subsidies, with the help of IFIs, of course. We really want Turkish industry to transform green and digital. Head of TÜBİTAK is with us, Hasan Mandal, Professor Dr. Hasan Mandal. We are working also closely with our science foundation, TÜBİTAK in Turkey. Why? Because we need some financing for decarbonization, but we also need some scientific and some laboratory research or some product development research in the field by starting from startups up to the large companies, so that the technologies will also be developed in Turkey. So EU, in that sense, EU anchors. Our work with the European Union is very valuable. If we work more closely with European Union counterparts, especially startups, companies, entrepreneurs, I really believe that we will be adding up more to technological base to decrease carbon emission and pollution in Turkey and in Europe as well. So right. So let me stop my speech here. Okay. Yeah, no need to mention. We are European Union is our first trade market, and Turkey is the sixth market for European Union. So our relations are very huge in monetary terms. So the fact that our economic relations are so intense requires us really closely follow the measures introduced within the scope of carbon border adjustment mechanism. Therefore, we should adapt them by taking into account the condition of our country, as I said. So I'm very grateful for realizing the works with the financial and technical support of the EBRD, and very grateful for this valuable low carbon pathways with the help of PricewaterhouseCoopers. And I really, let me repeat, I really give special importance to increase the knowledge base of our staff in the ministry. So our ministry, as is, it's not a ministry standalone. It's TÜBİTAK also working with us. KOSGEB is working with us. Turkish Standard Institutes are working with us. And we are really the pillars of this ecosystem in Turkey in terms of decarbonization. And I hope that we will be doing more work, and we will be getting more funding from EBRD and other IFIs. Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali Dönmez. This is very clear, the message you're giving. You're giving clear messages about the importance of all these activities to strengthen, enhance the competitiveness of the Turkish industry as a way to modernize, connect with the global green supply chains, value chains, but also to attract investments. You know, you talk about finance a lot. You know, finance is a big topic at COP28, and you mentioned the need to involve all the players, the financial players, local and international, the IFIs. And we are certainly very keen to continue the cooperation. You know, we see there's been a lot of talks at COP28 about country platforms, sectoral platforms. I think this is an area where we're very happy to cooperate, involve other IFIs and other partners, of course, the European Union, but also you mentioned the EIB, the World Bank. Clearly, considering the amount of investment needed and the type of transformation, the challenges of transformation, clearly setting up programs and platforms that facilitate the link between the investment, the project developers, the technology providers, and the financial sector is really key to accelerate the transformation. Actually, this is a very good link to Daniel. You know, Daniel is clean energy lead at the CIF, and I like to hear from you about how do you see the role of an instrument like CIF in supporting industrial decarbonization.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Gianpiero. It's great to be here with all of you. Let me just quickly say, for those of us who don't know us, the Climate Investment Funds, we are the largest pool of concessional finance that exclusively serves 6 MDBs, of which EBRD is one of our closest and best partners. We've been working with EBRD in Turkey for quite a while, and our experience there has been really successful in terms of clean energy development in wind power, and actually pioneering intermediary applications of concessional money that we can provide to help banks in Turkey understand efficiency financing for residential and SME applications. So some of you may be familiar with the Turkey Sustainable Energy Financing Facility that we partnered with EBRD to execute. I think that model, which is hugely successful, I think has resulted in more than 50,000 homes and small businesses receiving financing to improve their energy efficiency, gives us an idea of how to move forward on industry decarbonization, which, as you said, Gianpiero and Deputy Minister, you pointed out as well, is getting so much attention right now here at the COP and domestically. I think what we need to figure out is the way forward with different types of industries and how we decarbonize. The study that was presented earlier is a great start because it lays out these low carbon pathways that a country can begin to pursue. But as the Deputy Minister pointed out, you need finance to begin to pursue those things. We in the Climate Investment Funds, we try to bring the concessional finance to bear, very, very low interest loans that a country can take to do the hard work that even the banks like EBRD can't do themselves, because maybe there's too much technology risk, maybe there's a lot of policy risk involved, maybe it's just an area where there hasn't been a lot done before and it requires someone to take a first step. So we do that in general, and we have developed a new industry decarbonization program that will allow us to do that in countries like Turkey. This platform, which we call our CIF industry program, focused on industry decarbonization, is unique in a couple ways. One, as far as we can see, it's the only program out there that is trying to offer large-scale amounts of concessional finance that would allow countries to begin to act in some of these areas that have been identified. Two, it focuses both on the heavy emitting, hard to abate industries, as were highlighted in the study, but also in the sort of green industrialization opportunities that Gianpiero mentioned with green supply chains and really helping countries prepare for the new economy, one where there's lots of demand for clean technology, and maybe they could get a leg up on beginning to manufacture those and feed those supply chains both domestically and internationally. It's also unique for its aims, which involve scale. We try to make things happen at large scale, and our concessional resources have a great track record of bringing other resources to bear, not only from our MDB colleagues, but from the private sector, from national governments. Our clean energy portfolio has a co-financing ratio of 10-1. So if we were to come to Turkey and ask them to put together an investment plan of $100 million, just for example, we're not ready to do that yet, but maybe someday, hopefully, we could expect to leverage potentially $1 billion from other sources to focus on the issue. So there's scale, there's collaboration. We are one of the only platforms that really brings the MDBs together and makes them collaborate in specific sectors. So EBRD working closely with World Bank in the same areas on the same issues to be able to use our concessional resources to amplify the impact that they're already having on the ground. And then the third is transformational intent. I spoke earlier about the TERSEF example, which is really an example I use every time I go and speak to people about the ability of SIF working with the MDBs to make transformation happen in a market. We see the potential for that with industry decarbonization. It's simply a matter of how we make that happen. The program itself is quite flexible. So if a country was interested in the steel sector or in the cement sector, the chemical sector related to ammonia and fertilizers, as you mentioned earlier, Deputy Minister, then they could come together, work with the MDBs to form an investment plan that would say, here are the applications we think can have the biggest impact for the amount of money available. This program will also offer some unique aspects in terms of private sector engagement, because private sector is so important in this space. That could include private sector firms partnering with the government to develop the plan from the start. It could involve identifying specific firms that might want to take advantage of some of these concessional resources. There are a number of different aspects that are still in design. The program itself is not quite launched, but we are hoping to get it launched in the first quarter of 2024, at which case will be open for business, and we'll be expecting an application from Türkiye and others. One final aspect that I think is really important to mention of the program is that of all the stakeholders involved, it's important to recognize that those doing the work on the ground, workers and their representatives, need to be a part of it in order to make the transition to a clean industry a just and equitable one. So as part of our program, we expect that workers will be involved in conversations from the start, so that you have all the stakeholders, governments, MDBs, private sector firms, workers, and civil society engaged and working together collaboratively to form the best pathway forward for decarbonizing and greening industry, whether it be in Turkey or any other country in the world. So,
thank you very much, Daniel. This is very, very interesting, and I like the fact that you stressed the point of collaboration and complementarity and integration. This is a very, very critical element. Before closing the event, let me just maybe give a few points, and then I invite Dr. Dönmez maybe to give us a first final words on this activity. Two things. First of all, I like to highlight, and you said it very clearly, Deputy Minister, the leadership role of the government. Clearly, these activities, as MDBs, we are facilitators. SIF is an important partner, an enabler, but ultimately nothing can happen unless there is a strong leadership and a strong ambition. So I talked at the beginning about the vision, about the need to support the industry, enhancing its competitiveness, but clearly the leadership, the vision, the commitments of the country is absolutely key. That's the first element I want to highlight. And the second element is that because of the complexity of the transition and the transformation, the industrial sectors, of course, particularly in Turkey, are very active, very flexible, and have demonstrated, across the decades, the ability to be extremely competitive in international markets. Certainly, the transformation, the challenge of transformation, needs strong support from multiple parties, and I think this is what I like to confirm. I think I'm talking on behalf of the MDBs. The intention really to support the industrial sector in Turkey through this process. I think we have the ambition to provide a platform to linking all these elements, the policy, the behavioral change, you mentioned that, the integration of new technologies, but also crucially finance, domestic, international, IFIs. So that's, I think, we can commit. And so watch this space. Hopefully next year we'll come with showing a story of progress and implementation. Before closing, I'd like to give again the floor to Dr. Ali Dönmez for the last words on this topic.
Yeah, this Turkish industrial decarbonization platform that we are actually now launched with EBRD is very important, as you also, Daniel, mentioned. The SIF, your climate investment funds initiative also is very important. So I really want to invite you to Turkey to work closely with our staff. I mean, it is very different than in the past. Nowadays, we are, as the ministry, we are working very closely with Turkish Central Bank, for example, Turkish Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change. So we are in close contact with them. So therefore, especially, for example, recently, this week we are about to launch a support mechanism in Turkey involving green and digital transformation. But there is a very good wording that it says the central bank also work with us, and it's a joint support announcement. It says in the announcement that if a company gets international funding, especially green funding for transformation, getting greener, then this level of interest rate provided by, I mean, the interest rate support given by the central bank will be higher for companies coming and applying with international finances, which is very, very, very valuable, and which is also in accordance with what you said. It's leverage effect. So if we say if you bring some money from the international funds, international financial ecosystem, then we will give it's a co-financing facility, which is very important. Therefore, this platform with EBRD and with the involvement of the institutions, other international financial institutions are very valuable. And also, let me repeat, okay, we have low carbon pathways for sectors. And TÜBİTAK, our science foundation, has also conducted a very good study for a technological pathway. So they are very eager to support, provide support for also the Turkish companies for technological development and implementation of new technologies. So I think the future of Turkey industry is quite bright, and we will be a good partner with Europe. We learned a lot from Europe, working with Europe, and Turkey really became a country like a European country. Therefore, if we say something, if we do something, we really mean it. We are really very honest in that sense. We don't want to circumvent any rules. We really want the environmental pollution to reduce. We will apply also carbon emission charges if we import from China or some other places, so that we will be a very strategic part of the ecosystem, especially European taking the lead, and we will be a big partner of this initiative. So thanks a lot, really. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dönmez. And with these final words, I'd like to close this session. Let me thank Akif, Daniel, and Dr. Çetin, and of course, all of you present in the room and online. Thank you very much. Yes.
Head of the Environment Agency is here, Professor Dr. Halil Bey, Halil Hassar. Recently, we made a meeting with Ministry of Environment taking the lead. They were the chair, and all the ministerial staff was there. All of them represented at deputy minister level, lowest. So what we talked in that meeting, the first point was how to decarbonize the Turkish industry in terms of transportation, for example. How can we find ways to finance the linkages between the organized industrial zones and Turkish railway network? So in this sense, a decarbonization of Turkish industry is really at the top. Yeah, that's my last comment.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
you.